Today's khutbah is an attempt to help myself and you review some very important lessons from one single ayah that belongs to Surah Al-Mu'minun. That's the 23rd surah of the Quran. And it's a very short ayah of the surah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. Before I translate this ayah, I'm going to go through some of its important vocabulary and build the meanings of this ayah through a study or a careful look at some of the words that are involved in this ayah. And I'd like to start with the word ra'un, which is the last word in this ayah. It comes from the Arabic verb ra'a, which means to protect or overlook something, and from it you get the idea of a pasture like ra'iyya and mar'a. Mar'a is actually used for green pasture where cows and sheep are eating their grass and they're feeding, but it's protected area. It's protected from wolves and other animals. And a ra', the person, the shepherd, who's always keeping an eye on them and protecting them, because sheep often don't know, or goats don't know that they're heading near the edge of a cliff, and he's constantly watching them because they're not smart enough to realize that they might just keep grazing, not look up and tip over. He has to constantly look out for wolves or predators that are around the corner, or they're hiding away and they can attack at any time. In other words, someone is not capable, this ara is someone protecting a group, in this case a group of animals, that is not capable of protecting themselves. They don't see the danger that they're in, and only he is capable of seeing that, and his job is to watch over all of them and make sure that they don't end up either hurting themselves or others. Or hurting themselves or somebody else hurts them. The other thing that happens with these kinds of animals is sometimes they chew on a kind of plant that may be poisonous. Or they can chew on something that has thorns in it and they can kill themselves. Or they can get themselves caught up, and get strangled. Even the Quran describes animals that get caught up and strangled, like وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةِ, right? Animals that get caught up in a branch or somewhere and they strangle themselves. So these animals get themselves in a lot of trouble. And so the shepherd's job is to constantly keep watch on them. That's the word used in this ayah to describe us, one of the roles that we play. Before I go to the ayah, I remind myself and you of a great saying of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْؤُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Every single one of you is a shepherd, same word. And every single one of you is going to be questioned and is answerable. You can even translate that as responsible, someone who is going to be questioned about your own flock. There are people under you, there are people in your responsibility that you are responsible for, that you have to watch over, that you have to protect and I have to protect. A teacher has to protect students in some cases. Especially when you have younger students, people that are teaching at an elementary school or kindergarten, it's the teacher's responsibility that these kids don't run out of the classroom and into the hallway or run away from school or somewhere. It's their job. They're being held responsible for that. But also that they don't end up hurting themselves. Similarly, each one of us as members of a household, we're being told every single one of us has a flock under us. Now what does that mean? You would think that this is only about the head of the household, meaning the man of the house, the father figure, the husband, whoever, and they're responsible for everybody else in the family. And at some level that's true. In some level that's true. But Allah's Messenger in this case, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is saying every one of us actually has people under our influence. Every one of us has someone under us that looks up to us, or gives us some level of authority and respect, and we have to mind that authority and respect, and we have to watch for the people under our care. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْؤُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. But the subject of my khutbah is something else entirely, something that gets overlooked in the study of this ayah. It's only highlighted in passing, but I think it deserves a lot of attention. And so I'll translate this ayah for you now. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. Those who, this is describing people that have already attained success, the true believers. This is from the beginning of the surah, or beginning of this passage. And one of their qualities is those who, when it comes to their trusts, amanatihim, and their promise, their trusts, I'm using the plural word, amanatihim, wa'ahdihim, and their promise, they are watchful like a shepherd. Okay, this is the essential meaning. And so what I want to now highlight for myself and for all of you is the meaning of the word trusts. Amanat. Amana comes from the word aman, which means to be safe and to be at peace. When someone feels safe enough with you that they say, here are my car keys, I'm going to go for the weekend, I trust you with it. I trust you, it'll be safe in your hands. Just make sure if it rains, park it here, or if there's a storm, take it in the garage or whatever, but here are the keys, and they trust you with it. This is not the same as when you get the keys to a rental car and you violate it. but you've been handed the keys, somebody trusts that you will take care of this responsibility with the highest of care. As a matter of fact, you'll be more careful with it than you would be with your own car, because you've been entrusted with it. And this person feels safe enough that they handed this to you. So this is the idea of an amana. Sometimes an amana is by choice. Sometimes it's by choice, meaning somebody says, I don't know who I can leave my car with, or I needed to make sure that somebody checks my mail. I'm going to be out of town. Could you do that for me? And they hand you that choice, and you by choice take on that role. But there are lots of amanat in our life that are not a choice, that Allah handed to us whether we like it or not. For example, you being a son of your parents or a daughter of your parents is not a choice. And that trust that you will fulfill your obligations to your parents is on you whether you like it or not. You have been entrusted with this. You have to watch over this. Your children, the responsibility you have over your kids, over even your siblings to an extent, your own family. These are not relationships of choice. These are relationships ulul arham. These are relationships of the womb that Allah created. You cannot overlook those relationships. You and I cannot just say, well, I don't feel like my brother's my real brother, and you don't have any obligations to your brother. You can't do that. There are relationships we have in life that are by choice. Other relationships, we have no choice in the matter. Allah handed those to us and we have to fulfill them. So this is part of the meaning of amanat. But some have also, and come next to it is the word ahad. And ahad is a promise, which is an extension of an amana. It's a little bit different from an amana. And an amana, for example, you've been left to your devices and you do what you do. But in an ahad, you actually promise that you'll fulfill something, you'll do something. You told your employer you're going to finish this task by this time. Or when you signed a contract that you will, fulfill your obligations with honesty or whatever, you basically signed on something and you guaranteed that you will do your part. This is ahad. Some have looked at this ayah and said this is referring to the promise we made with Allah, which is true. Part of the meaning of this ayah is in fact that we all promised before Allah. Allah asked us, am I not your master? Alastu bi rabbikum? And we all responded, Bala shahidna, of course, we promise. Why not? We testify. We have accepted Allah as our master. That's the original promise. قَدْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ. Your covenant has already been taken, the promise has already been taken from you. But I want to highlight the other side of this. This is the side that I think all of us are familiar with. We're supposed to be watchful over our promises. We're supposed to take care of our responsibilities. But there's something special about the language of this ayah. First and foremost, a shepherd, a ra', isn't just someone who's careful. A shepherd is someone that if you take your eyes off of your responsibility for a single moment, or for 5 minutes, he just says, let me just take a nap under this tree while the sheep are doing their thing. Those 5 minutes may be enough for 3 of them to fall off the cliff, or the wolf to do his thing. You understand? Like there's a constant vigilance over his flock. There's a constant watching over and a concern. I'm worried about this group or this responsibility that's been handed to me, and it can go the wrong way at any moment. I have to be extremely protective and concerned about the people, or the in this case the animals under my care, but in our case the people under our care, right? But let's take that a step further. If I am in fact a shepherd and I'm watching over my animals, I don't have time to kind of comment on the other guy who's on the other field. Hey, sleeping on the job? If I'm too busy observing him, what am I not observing? My work, my responsibility. Sometimes you'll find this phenomenon at work. You have people that are not very good at their job, or they're very lazy with their job. And if you're in an office like that, or in a business like that, and you have people like that, you'll know that their time is mostly spent talking about other employees. Hey, so what are you doing? This one? This way, this way, this way. You have so much time to talk about what other people are not doing. You know why you have that time? Because you're not watching over your own responsibilities. Allah in this ayah put a taqdeem. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. Not وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ رَاعُونَ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ. He put amanat and ahad muqaddam. He put it earlier as if to say, it is only on their own responsibilities, only on their own trusts, only on their own promises that they keep crazy watch, that they keep vigilant watch. And when they do that, they don't have time to preoccupy themselves with the faults and the flaws of anybody else. As a matter of fact, that is an indication that you aren't really fulfilling your own responsibilities. It's not just about work. It's actually about what do you keep an eye on. There are people who keep an eye on everybody else, As if to say, there's no need for them to keep an eye on themselves. They're already way past, now it's time for them to comment on everybody else. This happens, of course, in the workplace. But I want to highlight also that this doesn't just happen in the workplace. It also happens in our families. It also happens in our interpersonal relationships. You'll have people that are very quick to comment on somebody else's family. You know, the way they raise their kids, I don't even know what they're doing. As if your children were raised angels. And your children, no, we come from a good family. Our kids don't do that. Really? Because your kids don't breathe in the same oxygen that everybody else does? And I remind you of something I've said so many years ago, but I need to remind myself of. If you hide behind this delusion that your kids and my kids come from a good family, then let me tell you something. Ibrahim alayhi salam is a pretty good family. And his son is Ishaq. And Ibrahim is a prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Ishaq is a prophet. Ishaq alayhi salam has a son, Yaqub. He's also a prophet. So the grandfather is a prophet, then the father is a prophet, and the grandson is also a prophet. And then he has children. Yaqub has children. One of them is a prophet, Yusuf alayhi salam. But he has other kids too. Though these kids come from a pretty good family. If somebody asks them, what family you come from? And this is actually something Yusuf alayhi salam himself is proud of. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. Even in prison he says, I follow the legacy and the religion of my family, my ancestors. And he mentions his fathers. But if those sons of Yaqub alayhi salam, who were willing to kill their own brother, or at the very least kidnap him and throw him in a well, in a ditch in the middle of the woods, and then lie to their dad about it, those same brothers, if you argue, these guys are really messed up. No, but they come from a good family. They couldn't come from a better family, arguably. They're direct descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam, 3 generations of prophets. And one of their brothers is a prophet too. Our lineage is not, well, we come from a good family, therefore we have time and opportunity now to comment on other people's families. Because we're from a respectable clan back home. Our kids never do that kind of thing. Yeah, they do. They do. I'm not saying your kids are terrible and my kids are great. I'm not saying that either. But I'm saying that we have to be very open eyes about our own family. You know, oftentimes we don't want to hear bad news. Sometimes your kids are in high school or they're in elementary school and somebody saw something your kids were doing. Somebody told you something about your daughter or your son. You know, I was concerned, I saw this happen, I was kind of worried. Or somebody calls and says, your son got into a fight and he hit my kid. Oh yeah, must have been your kid. Like before you find out anything else, no, not my kid. We're a good family. They're the ones that are messed up. I'm going to make sure my kid is never around your kid ever again, and etc., etc. We get overly protective because we assume our family can't be wrong. We can't be the ones that go wrong. Everybody else is messed up. What is this ayah telling us? Before you keep an eye on somebody else and criticize them, and worry about them and concern yourselves with them and point out what's wrong with them, you and I are supposed to be concerned about what's going on in our own home. I've literally known cases of families that are commenting on how these kids, man, their daughters don't even dress like this, and their sons, astaghfirullah, and their own kids have a drinking problem, and they don't even know, and they don't want to talk about it, but they have time to comment on somebody else. You know, this delusion happens when we're not keeping our eyes where they're supposed to be. We're not keeping our eyes where they're supposed to be. This ayah profoundly says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. And this is actually, the use of the lam here is also really remarkable. It's actually because Allah has entrusted you with this, because you have engaged in this process, in this promise, you should unconcern yourself with everybody else. You don't care. We take no pleasure in finding out something's wrong with somebody else's family or some of your friends or whatever else. We take no pleasure in that. Because we are too busy watching over the amana that's been handed over to us, and now bring it not even to the level of family. I gave you, this kind of thing happens at work. This kind of thing happens in your families. This kind of thing happens when people comment on each other in social gatherings. People even do this to each other's in-laws. Oh, I don't know why we married into your family. You know, I don't even know what kind of mistake we've made. We were such a good family and I don't know how we gave you a chance, and this kind of trash talk. to the other family, as if your family is like, I don't know, descended from heaven, and these people are, awlad of jinn or something that, they don't even deserve you. This kind of talk needs to come to an end. And so the word lam here goes back to actually personal. It's not even work, it's not society, it's not family. It goes back at the end of the day to the individual himself or herself. Allah Azza wa Jal gave us an amana. Me an amana, over myself. This is the amana that was handed to all of creation and they couldn't bear it. فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. All of creation couldn't handle the trust that was given to us, and we were capable of carrying it. وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. Allah Azza wa Jal gave us that amana of choice, of making the right decisions. And of course we make mistakes. Of course along the way, even though this heavy burden of responsibility has been put on you and myself, along the way, because all children of Adam make mistakes, كُلُّ بَنِي آدَمْ خَطَّاء. All children of Adam are makers of mistakes. وَخَيْرُ الْخَطَّائِينَ التَّوَّابُونَ. The best of those who make mistakes are the ones who go back and repent. This changes my view of things. Take stock of the kinds of conversations you and I have throughout the day. Who do you talk to and what do you talk about? And how much of that conversation is about others and how messed up they are? How inferior they are? How less than you they are? How disappointing they are? And how much of that conversation is actually, one, about ourselves, and two, about our own family and what we can do to help those in need within our own family. This is the last bit of my khutbah. The purpose of a shepherd is not to find out that a sheep is making a mistake, it's about to eat something poisonous, or it ate something poisonous, and then go and kick the sheep and say, "You dumb animal," and then beat it up. The purpose of being a shepherd is to find out when something is going wrong, to prevent it from happening, to make sure that if there is a mistake made, that the healing can happen, that it can be saved, and it does so with love and care. That's what's done. What happens often in our households is when we take the responsibility, okay, fine, I'm not concerned about others, I'm going to concern myself with myself and my family and those under my care. When I do that, then I become a dictator. I start pointing out everything wrong with my son or my daughter, or my siblings. Every chance I get, I point out, you're still this, you're still that, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you look, the way you stand, the way you sit. There are some parents who, like their daughters that have come up to me sometimes, who say, "My mom is never happy with me." I was like, "What does that mean? She's never happy with you?" "She's not happy with the way I stand, the way I sit, the way I dress. If I'm wearing socks," he's like, "Why are you wearing those socks? Why are you smiling? Why are you smiling? Why aren't you smiling? Why are you sitting facing this way? Why aren't you sitting facing that way?" It's like, I can't take it anymore. And now this kid listens to their parent for nothing, because the parent's constantly criticizing. And when you tell the parent, "Chill out a little bit, easy," the parent will say, no, but we have to watch over our kids. Yeah, but you can't be overbearing on your kids. The idea of a shepherd is not, the shepherd doesn't take the sheep and says, "Eat this batch of grass, now eat that one." The sheep has some room. There's some room to operate. I'm reminded also of the mother of Musa alayhi salam, who, when she put the baby in the water and the basket started floating away because it's a river, she couldn't go outside to check on the baby. It was a crazy situation. She can't go outside. She had to actually let her daughter go outside. And when she sent her daughter outside, she didn't say, "Hey, make sure you don't talk to any strangers. Make sure you what kind of shoes are you wearing? No, wear the other ones. Make sure you don't tell anybody that's your brother. Make sure this, make sure that." She didn't say anything. She just said, "Qusihi." Follow him. That's all she said. And the little girl was also not someone who said, "Well, do you want me to follow him for like 30 minutes or come back after 10 minutes? Or, how badly do you want, it's in the water, you want me to swim after him? I don't understand." Nope, the girl didn't do that. The girl was raised in a way by the mom, who was in that case her shepherd, that she understood when mom says follow, I have to use my common sense. We have to empower those under us to be able to use their common sense. And this girl did. She followed the baby all the way, and she came up with a plan to bring the baby, even the baby back, and to reunite with the mother, to the mom to end up going there. All of that happened because this child was given room to operate. What I'm trying to say is, yes, we are responsible over our families, but let's be real for a minute, especially those of us that are now parents of older kids. Some of your kids are teenagers, like my kids are teenagers. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. A couple of them are teenagers. Some of your kids are in college, some of your kids are married, and you're still overbearing. You're still overly controlling over your children. And that's a desire we have. We don't want them to make the mistakes that everybody else around us makes. Maybe the mistakes we made. We don't want that to happen for them. But understand something. They have been brought in a society where terrible choices don't just start happening when the kid turns 16 or 17 or 18. Those horrible choices were accessible to them by the time they turned 7 or 8 or 9. That was already accessible to them. And we brought them in this world. We brought them in this society. And we're raising them in this society. If we don't give them the strength and the confidence to be able to make their own choices, and we keep thinking we're going to push them and make sure they're doing this or that or the other, then the moment they have a little bit of freedom, you've lost them. You've lost them. Because they do not want to be told what to do. They do not want to be bossed. That is not what a ra' does. A ra' gives room to operate. So there were two essential messages that I wanted to share with you in light of this ayah. One, we cannot take our responsibility lightly. We cannot. And that means we cannot be focused on other people and their responsibilities and what they're not doing. Focus on what you're not doing and what needs to take place in your own family. That's what you and I need to focus on. The other is that when we do focus on our own family and our own responsibilities, that we cannot become overbearing. That we actually have to be loving and kind and patient as we do it. The ayah could have been وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ. It could have ended there. Tell your family to pray. Allah says, وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Be extremely, it's not even وَاصْبِرْ عَلَيْهَا, it's وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. صيغة المبالغة. Be extremely patient on that commandment. Why? Because when you tell your son to pray, your daughter to pray, they might say, I don't want to. You keep telling me to pray. And there may even be conflict in the home because you just keep talking about prayer. Be patient with that. It won't just happen overnight. Take it easy. Your patience will be tested. And I'm really shocked that the word istibar is not used anywhere else. Sabr is used, musabara is used, istibar only in this ayah when it's talking about your own family. So with our families, we do require a special level of care, a special level of patience to be able to fulfill the responsibility of being ra'. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those who truly fulfill our responsibilities, and may Allah Azza wa Jal overlook the shortcomings we have in fulfilling our responsibilities. May Allah protect the flock under all of our care, and may Allah Azza wa Jal give us the ability to raise a generation of this ummah that does a much better job carrying Islam than we do. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله رحمكم الله، اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.